After the shock loss to the New England Patriots, New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers had this to say to the media.
Call this a moment of darkness for this team. Is that how you see it, and how do you get out of it? I mean, because you could just stay in darkness as well.
Yeah, I've been in the darkness. You got to go in there, make peace with it. Offensively, our goal has just got to be score 30. Doesn't matter what the other two sides are doing. You know, we have trust in our defense and teams, but if we're not scoring 30, we're underachieving. This offense can do that every single week.
You think you'd be used to being in the darkness, wouldn't you, Aaron Rodgers, with his retreat, Phoebe? Look, I want to talk about the New York Jets, and I just want to say, in my opinion, and you can disagree with me if you want, this is it now for the New York Jets. This is it, not just for the season. We are looking at a completely different New York Jets team come September. Coaching staff is obviously going to change. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a different front office. I don't think Aaron Rodgers will be there as quarterback in September. Do you agree, Brian?
I love what you just said, and I'm going to go 2 steps farther.
Oh, let's go.
I'm being serious.
Woody
Johnson is going to sell the team before September.
Okay, so number one, I cannot take Aaron Rodgers seriously anymore. I haven't really taken him seriously about a year since he decided, maybe he was going to run as the vice president or whatever, and then denied it and caught out the media, even though that was a true story. Aaron Rodgers, so we got the trade deadline coming up, right? If you're the New York Jets, don't you want to just fast track all of this? You screwed up your head coach. You've screwed up your offense. You screwed up whatever culture or chemistry you were supposed to be building under Robert Saleh. Aaron Rodgers, he just does not look like he's committed. And most importantly, he doesn't look like he's a leader. He's always off with this team, with the franchise, with the coaching staff. He blames everybody else. He doesn't blame himself. And then he's sitting up there, we need to embrace the darkness. He's like a cartoon character.
Good impression as well.
So this is what I would do, seriously. Trade him. Nobody really, but maybe Miami or something like that. Nobody would take him. He's not going to go really start for anybody else. Get it over with. Get rid of him at the trade deadline. Move on from him. They are going nowhere. They're going to have to rebuild. And I agree with you. Aaron Rodgers will not be this team's quarterback next year. He's become one of the biggest disappointments in the NFL.
See, here's my problem with that. And I've spoken about this on the show before, the NFL, a lot of the time, is about optics. And the New York Jets do a bad job a lot of the time. What could be worse than trading the Messiah?
They've already done worse. They've already done that there. They've already hit the nuclear button. And the biggest problem is their owner, a gazillionaire, has turned it, basically believes that Aaron Rodgers knows how to win a Super Bowl. But Aaron Rodgers has proven since he left Green Bay, he does not know how to win a Super Bowl without the Green Bay Packers. And he didn't in his last 10 years there. They picked the wrong quarterback at the wrong time in his career. And Aaron Rodgers and the front office has slowly dragged a franchise that was already in the mud further into the swamp.
So I'm going to say it wasn't the wrong quarterback from a perspective of, we went into this season and certainly went into last season looking at that defense and saying, if Aaron Rodgers plays like the 16th best quarterback in the NFL, this team could go to a championship game, maybe even a Super Bowl. Like, he doesn't need to be vintage Aaron Rodgers to get there. Brian's completely right. All the off-field stuff is complete and utter nonsense. All of the conspiracy theorists, the appearances on Pat McAfee, the anti-vax stuff, all of that is so completely unnecessary for an organisation that already have real problems, as you said, with their optics. The problem is they've essentially turned over the franchise, the keys of that franchise to this man. And I just want to give you some historical context to how bad that loss to the Patriots was on Sunday. The Jets scored more than 20 points. They turned the ball over 0 times, and they held the opposition team to less than 250 total yards. Since 1940, 756 other teams have done that, and they have gone 756-0. One team has lost in that circumstance, and it's this New York Jets team. Their defense is a complete and utter clown car, a shambles, despite having talent, and I mean all pro-level talent at every single level. And what they did was they went, oh, it's not working. What do you want to do, Aaron? Oh, they're going to get rid of my guy as offensive coordinator, so I don't want the head coach gone. So they get rid of the head coach. Jeff Ulbrich can't coach the defense anymore. They go 0-3 in winnable games against very big teams. This Patriots team are awful, and they've gone and let them beat them with their backup quarterback, with an offensive line that they've had to change every single game, with a centre they've picked up off another practice squad. They're a complete and utter mess, and the Jets still couldn't find a way to beat them. This Jets defence last season or the season before should have been bageling that Patriots offense. There should have been 0 points on the other side. But because they've let Aaron Rodgers get his dirty little mitts into every single facet of this team, everyone's bad now, all of them.
I like your NFL history lesson.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that there is another career as a history teacher for Will Gavin.
There's some patches on these, and that'd be perfect.
No, I didn't say a lecturer. Phoebe, let's just talk about it from a coaching perspective for a second. Obviously, they've got this interim coach. How much do you blame coaching? How much do you blame personnel?
I mean, it has to be everything, right? Because it goes to Will's point. First off, you give the keys to your organization to a player, which you just can never do. You've got to have someone who's removed from the circumstances and can really see the big picture. Because ultimately, you look back to when Aaron Rodgers was with Green Bay, what made him so good was Matt LaFleur play calling for him. You give him the motions, you give him this kind of more creative offensive scheme, which he doesn't actually enjoy playing, right? So then you go to the Jets, he brings in Nathaniel Hackett, who's a guy that's going to let him do what he wants to do, let him run the offensive scheme he wants to run. You don't have the answers to all the tests. You've seen a lot and you can diagnose on the field, but you should not be the play caller essentially. And so you remove Robert Saleh, who has, to again Will's point, been an incredible defensive mind, right? I mean, Matt LaFleur just brought him back to Green Bay to help take his defensive mind and apply it to the offense. You have to see the bigger picture. And so I think the biggest issue here is you allow someone to take over your organization, bring in the people you want, use all the money and spend cap and trades, and then you're surprised that things aren't going the right way. Well, you put all your eggs in one basket here.
I mean, it's a prime example of sometimes things look good on paper.
Yes.
And in reality, it's not that.
Do you want to know how bad?
Is this another history lesson? If it's another history lesson, I don't know if I can take it.
Into the almanac we go.
All right, let's go.
Just because it's a really interesting point that Phoebe raised about like the offensive scheme. If you watched the Jets only pre-snap, so before Aaron Rodgers drops back with the ball, and Aaron Rodgers undoubtedly looks slow. Did you see Devin Godchaux essentially say he looks slow, old, just doesn't look like he's enjoying it? That's not the guy I faced a few years ago when he was in Green Bay. But actually, if you watch everything they do pre-snap, they're doing all the stuff that the Shanahan offenses, the McVay offenses, the LaFleur offenses, they're doing the motions. I watched them in London, and almost on every play they had a receiver going in motion, a tight end coming inside. Like, they were doing all of the flash. But because they have like Nathaniel Hackett, it's like he's been given somebody else's playbook and has no idea how to run it. He's watched other teams do it and gone, oh, well, that motion meant that they won that play, so we'll just do that. Without understanding why you do it, without understanding what the defense on the other side is offering. In theory, that should be what Rodgers is doing. He's like, right, I've been given all the tools to make this work, so I'm going to go out there with my big brain and make this actually work on paper. And there's so much ego with him. Like, they've had games where they've been ahead and they've run the ball 15 times and he's thrown it 45 times in games that they're winning. And that's all him. That's all I want the ball in my hands. I want to put this team on my shoulders. I want to prove that I'm the guy. And Aaron Rodgers is hands down one of the best quarterbacks I've ever watched play the game of football. From a throwing perspective, from what we talk about Mahomes now was how we talked about Rodgers 10 years ago. A decade ago, I would have said that Aaron Rodgers will end his career as a top 5 all-time NFL quarterback. He's just ruined the whole thing in the last 5 years.
He ruined it for me. I want to just ask you one sentence. I'll ask you one question, all of you, and you've got to answer with a yes or no, and just one sentence after that. Are the Jets the worst team in the NFL, Phoebe?
Yeah. I think they are, just offensively, defensively, special teams. They can't get it together at all.
Brian,
No, they're not the worst team. There's a team called the Carolina Panthers.
Oh, yeah. Panthers.
Sorry, we have to stick to facts here.
Sorry,
they're maybe 31st or 30th. No, they are not the worst team.
Well, let's just give it a wider context. Worst team in the NFL, then.
Worse than the tools they have.
Yes. Okay. So we'll just yes or no.
The fact that I have
yes or no? Yes or no?
No, because of the Panthers, but the fact that I have to think about it just shows how badly they're doing.